Hello, YouTube. This is not how I was hoping to start off this channel, but today something absolutely horrible, but also very influential happened. Today, Charlie Kirk, as you all very likely already know, was shot and killed while speaking at a college campus. There's going to be a lot of consequences from something like this. It's already a horrible act of murder. That you'd think that hardly needs to be said, but apparently it does. Well, I'm sure there's people who will cheer for this. I'm sure there's people who would be very, glad this happened. But Charlie was, one of the very most milquetoast guys on the right. I never found his politics appealing. I thought they were, just the same, like liberal conservative sort of stuff, you've been seeing forever that doesn't really change anything. It's he like as far as people to be targeted, there's the Fuentes assassination not very long ago. And that would have been a far better, win, I guess, for the people who might be cheering this on. But the video's out there everywhere. It's absolutely horrific. It's just totally fucked up. He gets shot and blood just starts pouring out. It was like a hard watch, and he doesn't deserve that. He just became the target because he's just front facing. He's very front facing for the right. They went after Trump. They went after Fuentes. They didn't succeed at both of those. They killed Charlie Kirk. And that's interesting to me, in the sense that Fuentes and Trump, killing them would have been maybe more influential than killing either, Charlie Kirk. Because there's so many people who say the same stuff as him, He's not, like, pushing any envelopes. He wasn't, and, Fuentes is. Trump was, now he's pushing the envelope of, how badly you can maybe betray your supporter base, but that's kind of a, separate topic. But the way I see it, this is what, from a, perspective how this is actually going to play out. I'm not sure what the shooter was hoping to achieve, but I don't think it's what, they're going to get. It seems to me that Charlie was like a floodgate holding back the more, essentially further right people, you look at Nick Fuentes, you look at, I don't even know, even like Candace Owens when she went, you look at even like, what's his name? Matt Walsh. He's pretty milquetoast even compared to some of the people you could be mentioning, but even he is made it pretty clear, as far as getting on track with certain things in the what I would call the real right. Some would say dissident right. I think it's just the actual right wing. I think the conservative institution has completely been hijacked. There's nothing they're even conserving. Everyone's pointed that out. It's just obvious at this point. So in the real right, as I would call them, you've got much more messaging regarding racial identity, white identity, essentially tribing up, as I've heard it put sometimes. It's a lot more serious, it's a lot more focused. There are much more tangible goals in what I would call the real right, in the sense of actual change. It's been a slow roll. You just look at how liberal, like people, it's funny because I've argued with people about this, but America is probably the most liberal, truly liberal in the sense of the word, country on earth that has ever existed on earth. I can't think of a place that has been more permissive of every manner of thing that would, in a traditional society, be found to be degenerate, wrong, pathetic, worthless. And these things are glorified. We're told we need to respect them, be kind to them, give them the same love as those things which love comes naturally to us, but we don't love these things naturally. It's just a sort of a forced game. I mean, that's obviously why they fail, why all these, woke things or whatever, they're popular in the people who are sort of like, they're pushed on and propagandized to. They're popular among those circles, but even then, you look at, certain things among the left, like the gender stuff. I mean, certain aspects of feminism, like it lasts for a while, but it's always so unpopular among normal people that it just doesn't ever stick around. I mean, the left is constantly reforming itself and glomming onto a new issue, over anything it can. And, the real right, as I would call it, they have very hard, fast values that have been around for a very long time, like since time immemorial. As long as human civilization has existed in any sense, there have been these values of cultural preservation, placing one's own group, one's own tribe, one's own race first. It's deeply rooted. There's a pretty strong Christian push that it comes along these right-wing circles. I mean, there's some debate about that among them. I mean, that's the thing about the right wing, is it's not exactly unified, and that's maybe why it has trouble. But certain things are coming, have been happening, like the subway murder of this innocent white girl, by a guy he's not just black. So there's the racial thing, but there's also this whole failure of the system in how he was like, I don't know, what was it? I heard the number 14 somewhere. 14 times he was like charged with crimes, but many, many times he had been in jail for violent crimes before this. And then, he does something completely inhuman, which you would actually totally expect from a guy like that, having looked at the rap sheet, but you wouldn't expect from a normal person. He does that, and it's just sort of like, there's no answering for that. It's just a dead girl. I mean, people talk about this stuff, the news media gets quick on it. I almost feel like I see a giddy sense of glee in the eyes of the news media when they talk about this stuff, the deaths of these people. It's scary to me in a way. It's just inhuman, but it's like, you put yourselves in these people's shoes for a moment. I mean, they were murdered in a vicious way, and their life drained from them in front of their eyes. They didn't die quickly or mercifully or after a long life. I mean, it's just suddenly violently taken away from them, and they felt every bit of it, and there's the weight of that just isn't even captured in the reporting. It isn't captured in the way people tend to talk about these things a lot of the time. And when I think about that stuff, it sickens me to my core. And when nothing's done, like the people in charge, they just talk about it so casually, and nothing's done. It makes me very angry. That's all I have to say. It makes me very angry. So yeah, I mean, the floodgates are open in a sense for the true right wingers to come in and take the place. I mean, besides Charlie Kirk, it was Ben Shapiro. Those are the only two people who are really big and aren't totally mainstream, like totally mainstream, that are clutching on to like these traditional what people call con inc, or just like neoconservative values, and those things are slipping. Like the idea of the universal man, universal liberal principles, and this and that. Like, I mean, it's a lot of people put it very simply when they say, liberal democracy is for a nation of white Christians. That's, when people say that's what the founding fathers intended, it's not really hard to see why. Because we're the opposite of that. We're a nation of, the majority of Christians are just Christians in name only, right? So we're really a majority atheist country in lifestyle. It's probably 90+% atheist in terms of the way people live their lives, if I'm going to guess about it. And then, it's obviously, I mean, white people are still the majority in this country, but, you also have to consider that like Mexicans are counted as white under statistical stuff in the U.S., and all these other groups are counted as white that aren't white. So, just Mexicans alone, it makes me think that the real number of whites is significantly lower than the statistics. And you basically look at it, it's just the opposite. The country's just the opposite now in terms of demographics of what it was when it started. And, if you don't think that has an impact on, on how the country's going to run, you know, and how the interactions in day-to-day life are going to play out between people compared to how they used to. There's no reasoning with you if you don't understand that. So it's just, and now too, I mean, everything you see is like society's collapsing, it's falling apart. People feel like, young people feel hopeless. People in big cities, you know what I mean, are depressed and animalistic in the way that they live their lives, just for every temporary thrill, constantly envious, constantly, angry, unhappy. Like all these negative social factors are arising, and it's like you look at how our country started and how it was even up until relatively recently in its history. We had pretty much every manner of social cohesion and sort of, what is it? Like essentially when a group defends itself, when a group struggles through the harshness, rather than eating itself alive, everyone protects everyone else. You don't see that anymore. Like there's the loss of community, all of that, and you just look at the demography and it just kind of makes you think. Like, makes you think. That's all I gotta say. So. I mean, this thing with Charlie Kirk, there's just murders and murders and murders constantly. That's all it's been for I don't know how long in the news and just in people's lives. I mean, if you really pay attention to politics, every week there's a new horrific murder, and usually there's some sort of racial involvement, like racial factor involved there. Almost every time. So it shows you. I mean, we're headed towards something that's a lot more primitive than what we're used to. We're used to, a very civilized, a civilized way of warfare and a civilized way of living, even in times of war. And that's going to go away. That's, if things don't change, and even if things change usually involves conflict, and if things don't change, it'll just lead to a bigger conflict. That's all there is to it, I suppose. So, rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. Fucking horrific murder. It just it doesn't slow down this world. It doesn't slow down. And things do happen. And try not to black pill about it. You try to keep trucking on and do what you can do and be active in your community, and that's all there is to it. So. I guess we'll take a look too. We'll take a look real quick at some of this footage that's come out. We're not going to look at the video of the shooting because that's, I mean, first of all, I don't even really want to show you. It's pretty easy to find. And secondly, it's just not for YouTube. So we're going to be looking at this first video of this guy up on the roof.
You think he'd already be in place?
You would think that. So there's somebody on the roof right there? Just saying? Huh. He just ran from over. Where's my finger? Well, from over there, ran in, and now he's right there. Just saying, just getting right up.
Yep.
You think he'd already be in place?
So the sniper was on the roof, and he was a sniper. He used a hunting rifle. You can see in this video, everyone drops down. I believe everyone's freaking out because of the gunshots. Granted, they're not going to shoot anyone in the crowd. At least, I think so. Everyone's squatting. That one guy's just Chad. I mean, terrified. This man right here is just staring. He probably doesn't even know what's going on. But now the real action here is just briefly, if you look at the top middle, you can see right there, that little speck on the roof. You can watch him. He runs. He's just running along. Right after the shooting. So, pretty damning stuff. And so he mapped it out. You got 455 feet right there from the top to the center of the pitch down there. So that's what you're looking at. You're looking at a 450-foot shot, more than likely taken with a 308. I mean, blood just gushes out of his neck. There's a large amount of force delivered to him. I mean, his whole body and head jolted when he was hit. And then, as is typical when people don't die right immediately, you see a flash look in his eyes of fear and confusion. And then he just falls back. You know, blood's pouring out of him like it's a fucking elevator scene in The Shining. And, you know, so it's clear it's large caliber, you know, hollow point or ball, God knows, doesn't matter. This guy likes to say it's a professional assassination. I mean, maybe. If you do any research at all on how to conduct an assassination, you know, CIA Assassination Handbook, that's a very famous book. It's not very long, too. It's like fucking 15, 20 pages. You read that thing, it tells you short range, you use a submachine gun or a handgun, you aim center mass, you know. Or you can, you know, there's other things you can use, but you really want to be going center mass with something you can get as many shots as possible, you know. And then long range, it's center mass with a high-powered rifle, like a hunting rifle. That's, I mean, it's very simple. It's very, you know, short book. So any sort of research would show you this is what you would want to do, but, you know, that just kind of makes you wonder, was it somebody more professional, or was this shooting conducted, you know, by just some random guy who happened to like either be kind of smart or do his research on how to conduct an assassination. You know, the shot hit him in the neck, so it's pretty clear he was probably shooting for the head, because that's what most of these people do, and he's probably had his gun, you know, not perfectly zeroed for that range, more than likely. So he probably just put it on his head and ended up low. Or, I mean, it's possible he put it on his chest, ended up high. Either or, but nevertheless, he killed him. You know, he was on the center line, and he had the proper margin of fucking error and fucking took him out. So, you know, it's going to be some big stuff. So this is long enough. I've rambled enough, but I think, you know, some of the stuff needed to be said. So, you know, especially what it comes down to, Charlie's death opened the floodgates for the real right, for the racial right, for the, you know, alt-right, for the dissident right. It opened the floodgates because there's no longer this gatekeeper in the way. And that's what I think is going to be one of the biggest consequences of this whole situation. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And it's a fucking sucky day to start a channel or to start posting about shit like I've been wanting to. Peace.